Over the last month, the 10 big teams that in this tournament are about Venezuela.
Alex Eala is walking toward the court, down 1-5, surrounded by a stadium that should belong to the tournament's biggest names. But the Philippine flags are everywhere. The crowd is not waiting for Naomi Osaka, not Jessica Pegula, not the defending champion. They are waiting for the unseeded 21-year-old from Manila to complete something that looked impossible 7 days earlier. And by the time you finish this video, you will understand why Alex Eala has become bigger than a breakout story. She has become the biggest force moving tickets, attention, and belief through American tennis. Because according to Mubadala CDDC Open owner Mark Ein, at least 80% of the tournament's ticket inquiries were about Alex Eala. Not Osaka, not Pegula, Alex. If you've been in this corner since day one, before the mainstream learned how to spell her name, subscribe and stand with the rest of the Filipino army. Because what happened in Washington was not just a tournament run. It was an institutional white flag. Look at the draw. Naomi Osaka, a 4-time Grand Slam champion, carrying the weight of her past dominance. Jessica Pegula, the world #3 American, playing on home soil with the expectations of an entire tennis market behind her. Elina Svitolina, the 2nd seed and Olympic medalist, defending her position inside the establishment. Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion, protecting the title she already owned. And then there was Alex Eala. Unseeded. Ranked 28th in the world. Playing in her first WTA 500 main draw. On paper, the tournament's seeding committee placed her behind the established stars. Svitolina was seeded 2nd, Osaka was 3rd, Fernandez was 7th, Pegula was the marquee American name. Eala was supposed to be the compelling side story. The nice Filipino tennis story. The wildcard with potential. But the ticketing data told a completely different story. Mark Ein, the owner of the DC Open, said his team had seen a huge wave of interest building around Eala months before the tournament began. Over the previous month, he said, 80% or more of the ticket inquiries were about when Alex Eala would play. That was not a fan account making noise online. That was not a Filipino journalist exaggerating the moment. That was the tournament chairman describing an operational reality. The players with the bigger resumes were defending their pressure, their image, and their past glory. Eala was carrying something heavier. A country's belief. She was carrying families who drove for hours to reach Rock Creek Park, overseas Filipino workers watching from different time zones, Filipino Americans filling the stands with flags, banners, and Tagalog chants. The establishment had the rankings. Eala had the movement. And then she started beating the names the establishment was built around. The first warning came against Zheng Qinwen, the Paris Olympic champion. Eala did not cruise through that match. She dropped the opening set and fell behind early. The Olympic champion had the power, the ranking, and the expected script. But Eala did something that has become central to her identity. She refused to panic. No racket smashing. No dramatic collapse. No begging the crowd to rescue her. Just ice-cold composure. Point by point, she dragged the match away from Qinwen and toward herself. Then came Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion. Again, Eala found herself in trouble. Down 5-1 in the second set, the match looked like it was slipping away. That is the moment when most young players start playing the score instead of the point. Eala did the opposite. She slowed everything down. She made Fernandez hit one more ball, then another. She turned defense into pressure, pressure into doubt, and doubt into a comeback. The WTA described the sequence as pure heart. But that phrase almost undersells what happened. Because this was not just emotion, it was discipline under fire. Every Filipino family in that stadium understood the feeling. The long road, the late opportunity, the moment where quitting would be easier but impossible because too many people believe in you. The flags in the crowd were not decoration. They were a second heartbeat. Eala was not playing like someone hopping to belong in the room. She was playing like someone who had already decided the room belonged to her. Then came Svitolina. 2nd seed. Experienced. Battle-tested. Another player expected to make the semi-final about her own resume. Instead, Eala won in straight sets. And suddenly, the nice story had eliminated the second seed and the defending champion in the same week. But the biggest test was still waiting. Naomi Osaka, a four-time major champion, a global icon, a player whose name alone can change the atmosphere inside a stadium. This was Eala's first meeting with Osaka and her first opportunity to defeat a four-time slam winner. She did not blink. Eala won 6-4, 6-2. No miracle needed. No lucky escape. Just a clinical performance against one of the most recognizable players in modern tennis. 4 major opponents. 1 week. 1 unseeded 21-year-old. That is when the tournament stopped being about whether Alex Eala belonged. The question became much more uncomfortable for everyone else. How long had tennis been underestimating her? Here is the proof. First, the 80% ticket inquiry figure. Mark Ein said 4 out of every 5 recent ticket inquiries were about Eala, despite the draw featuring Osaka, Pegula, Svitolina, and Fernandez. That is not a sentimental statistic, that is demand. Second, the crowd reaction. Videos from the WTA, Tennis Channel, ABS-CBN, and spectators showed center court covered in Philippine flags. The atmosphere resembled a home tie in Manila more than a traditional American summer tournament. Third, the opponent testimony. Jessica Pegula remembered facing Eala in Miami in 2025 and admitted she was stunned by the crowd. She said, "I was just like, who are these people? What is going on? I'm an American, I'm in Miami Open, we're in the semis, I live in South Florida. I was just like, where are these people coming from?" Then she added the sentence that explains why this has become bigger than tennis. "It's gotten even crazier and it makes complete sense now." That is the world number 3 American acknowledging that the player across the net may have the crowd advantage on American soil. Fourth, the timing. Mark Ein said his team identified Eala's commercial power back in early spring. They did not stumble into her, they actively wanted her in Washington. The tournament saw the signal before the wider tennis world did. Then Eala arrived and validated the bet by taking out the Olympic champion, the defending champion, the second seed, and a 4-time Grand Slam champion. That is not a marketing campaign creating a star. That is a star forcing the marketing campaign to catch up. And none of this came from nowhere. 14 months earlier, Eala reached her first tour-level final at Eastbourne and lost. That defeat stayed with her. This time, when asked about playing big matches, she explained that she had developed through repeated pressure. She had been put in those moments more often. She had learned how to handle them. And when asked what the crowd in Washington meant to her, Eala gave the simplest answer possible. "It makes me feel loved, what can I say, and it makes it more exciting to play here." That sentence tells you everything. The crowd gave her energy. But she gave the crowd a reason to believe. The paradox is impossible to ignore. Her opponents had the resume. Eala had the loudest movement. They had the Grand Slam titles, the Olympic history, the established rankings, and the familiar names. Eala had something the sport could not manufacture. A diaspora waiting for someone to make them feel represented inside the biggest stadiums. The DC Open treated her like an unseeded player. The ticket office treated her like the main attraction. The crowd treated her like a home champion. And after 7 days of destroying the draw, the tournament chairman finally said what the numbers had already revealed. Alex Eala was not the supporting act. She was the show. Now the bigger question is what happens next. The US Open is coming. Cincinnati and the Canadian swing are ahead. Tournament directors have seen what a Filipino crowd can do inside an American stadium. They have seen the flags. They have seen the ticket demand. They have seen the attention. The next time Alex Eala enters a tournament, will she still be offered a wild card? Or will she be given the headliner billing, primetime scheduling, and marketing campaign she has already earned? So tell me in the comments. Would the 2026 DC Open have felt anything close to this without Alex Eala in the draw, or did she carry the tournament on her back?